everyone. So my name is Shaytoya with Community Communications, and today I have the opportunity to be interviewing Gabriel Arias with Network Consultants of Nevada. Welcome, Gabriel. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Of course. So I'm super excited about this interview to learn more about exactly what is it that you do. You just share with us a little bit.
All right. I am an IT consultant. I've been in business in Las Vegas for 23 years, and I have approximately 100 to 125 companies that I take care of. I design their computer systems and I maintain them.
Wow, you said 125? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes. Yeah, but yet, in the world of IT, problems don't occur every day. So I might have a client that I might see only a couple times a year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, because that's the only time they have problems.
Got it. Well, that's pretty cool. And what inspired you to get into this profession?
The main thing was I wanted to be able to find a job anytime I wanted. And it was true. I could quit one job and people would be calling me the next day asking me to go to work for them. So that was the real reason why I started in computers, is I never wanted to have to worry about getting a job.
Got it. That is pretty, I totally understand that. And so before you started Network Consultants of Nevada, were you doing IT?
Yes, I went to UNLV, and my calculus teacher at UNLV gave me my very first job building computers. He had a little shop on Flamingo and Maryland Parkway. And that's when computers first started coming out. There was no HP, there was no Dell, there was no Gateway, there was none of those companies were around. So in order for you to have a computer, you would have to go and buy all the parts and you'd have to build the computer yourself.
Wow. That is pretty amazing. And I'm sure that was much needed in a time where,
Yeah.
Technology wasn't as accessible that it is today.
Right. Yeah. And and the prices were just through the roof. It would cost us about $1,100 to buy all the parts. And my boss would turn around and sell that computer for $8,000 all day long, and he could not keep them on the shelf.
Oh, that's crazy. Nowadays
Yeah.
we can
Now,
get computers for a lot cheaper than that. So I'm
yeah,
sure
you
that
can get it. You can get a top of the line. You can get a top of the line computer now for $250.
yeah, that's it's amazing how technology works. And
Yeah.
talking about the updates of technology and you being in the industry for quite a while, like how do you keep up to date to the all the, new technology that comes out?
The biggest thing are the operating systems. Microsoft comes out with a new version of Windows every 3 years. So you have to really, as soon as that operating system comes out, you have to put it in your computer and you have to learn it. Every operating system is different than the previous one. So that's the big thing, is just to keep up with it. One other thing I would like to point out is that I'm what's considered a field engineer. Everything I do is out in the field. And I tell people this all the time. After being in this field for 22 years, probably 30% of all the problems I run into, I've never seen before. And that's an engineering skill that you have to acquire by being out in the field. And computers is the only industry I know. It's what you've seen and what you've experienced really dictates what kind of money you can charge, how good you are. It dictates several different outcomes of your profession. So you really have to keep up with it. I know computer guys that have dropped out for 3 years and they try to come back in and they're lost. It's so hard. If you drop out and come back in 3 years later, the technology has changed so dramatically that it really is a learning curve.
I'm pretty positive that's the way things are. So, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that, that you've been able to stick to, the update, the all ever, the changes that are always, consistently
Yes.
changing.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
it comes when it comes to, the potential, like, is there a focus of, IT services that you personally like, maybe like what's your favorite to work on with the customer?
Oh, design. Design is my favorite. For example, let's say you're a brand new company and you're opening up a location and it needs computers, it needs emails, it needs to share all the data between all the employees. There has to be security. We don't want people from manufacturing to be able to access information from accounting,
Mhm.
obviously. So that's very specialized, is to make sure that your data is secure, in that internal security, and that employees don't have the right to access things they don't have to access. So that's my favorite, is design. When I get to put a brand new server in and I need to get to put the workstations in, I get to design the whole thing from scratch. That, to me, is the best day of my life of that year, when I get to do things like that.
Got it. Yeah, that's that is pretty amazing. And when it
Yeah.
comes to someone that does need a new design for, your IT services, I mean, what is something that somebody needs to do before they give you a call?
They have to really determine what they want their computer system to do. What kind of applications are you going to run? Do we have to do we have to be more focused on the speed in the internal network, or do you have applications that you run on the internet? Do we have to be more focused on the internet speed? And the big thing about the internet speed is there's obviously upload and download. The download speed is what you normally have at home when you go to MSN or you go to any website and you're just viewing websites. That's all download speed. And that's pretty good on most internet connections. But it's the upload speed, when you start dealing with applications on the internet, that comes into play. The upload speed is very important, because that's the speed it takes for you to take the information from your computer and push it up to the application that you're running on the internet. And that's where it really comes into play as to what kind of applications you're going to run. Because if you're going to run applications on the internet, you better have a really good internet provider that provides you a really good upload speed, so you can do your applications online.
Got it. Do you have any possible examples of customers that you've worked with in the past that you could share with us? Just kind of sharing what you were talking about when it comes to like design, builds, and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. The biggest ones, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention company names or anything, but I have a chain of restaurants that I do, and they all have to talk together, which is pretty great. And doctors are really great. Doctors and attorneys are probably the best ones, because they really have all the money. You
Hmm.
know, they don't have to be inexpensive on the way they do things. So if it's more beneficial for them to have their applications in house versus on the internet, then they would prefer to do that regardless of the cost.
Got it. And I can see that being a, great person for you to work with.
Yes,
And when it comes to, you did mention that every 3 months that, things are changing.
every
And so
3 years.
every 3 years. Oh, so that's even better.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
mean, I
three
guess,
3 months. That would be pretty hectic.
yeah.
Every 3 months.
I heard you wrong. So it's every 3 years.
Yeah.
And so
And it's not only the operating system, it's all applications.
mm,
The people that use QuickBooks out there, every year there's a new version of QuickBooks you have to upgrade it to. And if you do payroll on QuickBooks, then you have to upgrade, because you have to get the new payroll tax tables. So there's upgrades every single year on all kinds of applications. All your Microsoft products, your Intuit products, AutoCAD, you name it, applications have to come out with updates in order to keep up with the operating systems. So it's all kinds of applications that change, more frequently than others. Like the QuickBooks, like I said, changes every year. Every year there's a new version of QuickBooks. Every year we have to go out and we have to install this on all the machines that want to keep up or that have to do payroll through QuickBooks. So yeah, the most important thing are the updates, and how to get used to doing the updates. Microsoft comes out with updates every Wednesday.
mm,
Every Wednesday you look on your computer and you will see that Microsoft has sent you an update. And you have to keep up with these updates, because these updates fix security problems, security holes. People are figure out a way to break into the Microsoft Windows program. They come out with an update to stop them. So, that's the biggest thing I can tell people, is keep up with your updates. It's so crucial. You know, when you turn on your computer and the little box comes up and says, "There's a new version of this program to install," and you hit cancel, that's going to be a problem eventually. You're going to start suffering problems in your
Mm,
application because you haven't done updates.
got it. No, and I feel like, a lot of people possibly don't know the importance of making sure that you stay up to updates. So, Gabriel,
Yes.
thank you for sharing that with us. And you did
Yep.
mention that you have 125 customers, and with having weekly updates, like how are you able to, I'm sure you have busy times as a an entrepreneur,
You're right.
IT professional. Like,
Right.
how are you
Uh,
able to keep up with all of this?
what I do is you have to be very organized. Number one, that's crucial. You have to, when I first started out, I actually wrote everything down. I kept a notebook, a little tiny notebook in my shirt pocket, and I had a pencil and paper. I wrote everything down because you have to be able to keep up with your schedule. And the biggest part is, I'll give you an example. If your computer system is completely down, where you have 15, 20 employees sitting around not being able to work, do you want your computer guy across town setting up a simple printer? No,
No.
you want that guy there. The simple printer can wait. The printer setup can wait. So you have to really weigh the cost of what it's going to take. What's wrong? First of all, are your employees, is your business suffering? If your business is suffering, that has to be put on the top of the list without doubt, because all my customers would understand that, because they understand they don't want me across town doing something simple if they're completely down. And then you have to be able to call your clients that and tell them that you have an emergency and you're going to have to be pushed back, unfortunately. And sometimes they get upset, and that's the way I explain it to them. I explain it to them that way. If you have your computer system is totally down, you don't want me across town hooking up a keyboard. You
Right.
want me right there because that's what I'm there for. So you have to really weigh the weight of what's wrong in the company, and schedule accordingly. You
Correct.
have to be organized. You have to be organized, and you have to have a good sense of communication. You have to communicate with your clients all the time. If you're my client and I tell you I'm going to be there at 10 a.m., okay, and the emergency comes up at 8:30, and I don't call you, 10 o'clock comes, 11 o'clock comes, 12 o'clock comes, and you don't hear from me, that makes people very upset, because they act, they makes them feel like you don't care about them. And that's the biggest thing that you have to understand about the world of computers. What I tell people is, a good computer guy is like a good car mechanic.
Mm.
Very, very hard to find, and you tend to hold on to them for dear life when you do find them.
Got it. No, that totally makes sense. And then when you were speaking, Gabriel, I was thinking of kind of like a doctor when you go to the emergency room.
Yes,
So they're going to focus on the
yes,
ones that are, that's an actual
yeah,
emergency. So
yeah,
I totally,
yeah. Yeah, they're going to perform. It's called triage, is what it's called. They're going to
exactly.
perform triage to determine what patient needs the most attention and deal with that patient first.
Exactly. So it's very similar. I mean, of course, we're talking about health and IT, so there is a
Right.
difference. But, it's very similar to the way that you're organizing things, just like, medical would do as well, which I think is
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly.
And then when it comes to Gabriel, like when it comes to some of the possible projects that you've done in the past, like what are some of your favorite projects that you've done for customers?
Like I said, designing multiple locations. I have one company that I design. They have locations in Oregon, in Arizona, in Michigan, in Las Vegas, and Washington. And to be able to design a system where they all talk, it's the ultimate for a computer engineer, for a computer consultant. That's what we'd live for.
Got it.
So that was probably my favorite. Multi environments where they all have to talk, that right there is like heaven for me, because I get to actually do what I was trained to do.
Got it. And no, that is great. So pretty much when it comes to a design, when it comes to IT services, I do want to have a full understanding of what that is. So pretty much you're making things talk. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Yes, when you have, let's say you have a building that has 30 computers in it, you don't want to have to go to each computer to get information from each computer. You want to go to one central location where everybody puts their information. So if you're creating, let's say, Excel spreadsheets, I don't want to have to go to your computer with a thumb drive and copy the Excel spreadsheet off of that computer, take it back to my computer. While it's on my computer, you can't work on it because if you make changes and I make changes, then you have two sets of books. So we create a central location where all documents are stored. And then we share other services like printing and scanning and a post office for email services where you can set up calendars and you can share calendars and you can share people's emails. So that's really what the design entitles. First, you have to go in there and you have to do a really good survey. You have to spend several hours and you have to talk to the customer. If you don't talk to the customer, you don't know what they want. Most of the time, they don't. It's your job to tell them what they want. Okay. But you can't tell them what they want unless you know what they're trying to accomplish. So once you figure out what they're trying to accomplish, then you can sit down and say, okay, we can go this route or we can go this route. I always try to give my customers two different options to go, and I explain the difference between the two. And normally, what happens is where it breaks down the most is in cost. This one costs this much, A solution costs this much, B solution costs this much. And that really has a lot to do with which way they're going to go.
Got it. So that makes sense. And so would you say that these services are, like, are they cloud-based or they're more of like, how does that work?
The cloud is really coming into play. And there's the biggest thing that biggest misconception that people have about the cloud is that there's only one cloud, but there's actually several different clouds. It depends on what you want to do. If all you want to do is store documents on the cloud, then you might use something like Google Docs or OneDrive by Microsoft, or Amazon has its own cloud drive where you can store documents and people across the world can log into those documents and they can pull those documents up and they can modify the documents and put them back. So you don't have to worry about sending an email to somebody. You don't have to worry about doing anything. The documents are on the cloud for you to access. And that's number one cloud. That's what most people use for the cloud. Then you have more advanced cloud solutions where you actually can run an application on the cloud. And they use some kind of remote services to connect to your own workstation on the cloud. So you would actually have your own workstation and your own desktop on the cloud. When you logged into your account, all your icons would appear. Your Microsoft Word, your Excel, your Outlook, your QuickBooks, whatever application you ran would appear when you clicked on your account and logged into your account. You would get a new desktop on your computer, and that would be your cloud desktop that allows you to access all the applications. The biggest benefit between the cloud and having it in house is obviously management. If you have a cloud and you only have to go to one place to fix something, it's a lot better than having to go to several places and fix something. Updates is another thing. When you only have to update one computer and it automatically updates everybody, that's a cloud solution rather than having to go and update everybody's computer individually. At that point, when you're doing that kind of cloud computing, I don't know if you remember these words, but back when computers first started, there was a thing called dumb terminals. And
Mm.
all a dumb terminal is it displays information that a computer tells it to display. And when you're doing the cloud computing where you have all your applications online, that's pretty much what your workstation is a dumb terminal. All it does is display information from your cloud computer onto your computer so you can see it. But your computer does no work whatsoever. Okay. And that's another big difference between going to the cloud versus going in house. When you go in house, you may be spending twice as much for a computer because all the work is done by your computer. When you're on the cloud and you're doing applications on the cloud, all you care about is getting on the internet. You could go to Best Buy and buy a $200 computer. All you care about is getting on the internet because your computer does no work. All your computer is responsible for connecting you to the internet, logging into your account, and pulling up your computer on the internet. Your
Got
cloud computer is what it's called.
got it. And I mean, I guess the options when it comes to who is it that you work with, I'm guessing it's the options of somebody that is doing it in-house. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, and it really depends on the application you're going to use. Most applications have the ability to do either. They can do in-house or they can do cloud computing, and it really depends on a lot of people. I'll give you a prime example: QuickBooks. There's QuickBooks on the cloud where you don't have to purchase QuickBooks every year. You can go to Intuit, you can get a cloud account, and you can do all your QuickBooks online. There's a lot of accountants that don't like that because you lose a lot of reporting services. So it really depends on what you're going to do with the application and whether or not you're happy with using the application that the company offers on the internet versus having the application in house. Another thing to consider is once you have that application on the internet, your internet is everything.
Hmm,
If your internet goes down, you're out of business.
got
Okay.
it.
When an application is in house, if your internet goes down, the only thing you don't get to do is you don't get to go to Facebook, but you still get to run all your applications because your applications are all in house. And another big problem that we're facing right now today is hacking. Internet applications get hacked a lot easier than in house applications. Right now, with the doctors, we're having a huge, huge problem in that the clearinghouse that pays for the Medicare payments back to the doctors got hacked.
Hmm,
Okay. At one point this year, there was $9 billion needed to go out to doctors. And after about 4 months, $2,700 of it went out of 9 billion
hmm,
because they got hacked and they couldn't access any of their computers. MGM is another prime example. MGM, that was a big hack that was just in the news. And that one was very, very clever. The people that hacked the MGM picked an employee, said, we're going to use this employee. And then they went into social media and they found out everything they could about this employee. Okay. Then they called human resources, told human resources they were that employee, and got human resources to change their password to log into their computer.
That's that's crazy.
It was over. It was over. Once that guy had that password, it was over. It
Yeah,
cost it. They're saying it cost the MGM like $3.5 billion.
yeah.
Craziness. Yeah. So I've been thinking about that, and that's my biggest fear right now is what happens when your employee calls human resources and asks for something like this, or sends an email. The biggest way we see it is to send an email. This has happened several times to several companies. Human resources will get an email from, it's supposed to be an employee, telling the human resources that their bank has changed. And we would like you to start depositing our automatic deposit in this bank account instead of that bank account. And 3 years ago, there was no need to check to make sure everything was kosher and everything was verified. There was no need to. And people started losing money left and right because people would call, email, not really call, but email human resources and ask them to change the bank account. So now it's gotten worse now because they don't have to email anymore. They can use AI to do social media. Social engineering is what it's called, where they engineer an identity with the information they have found out about you on the internet. And then they take that identity and they go to human resources and ask them to change your password. They actually call and
Hmm,
say, I'm so and so. And they got you on the phone. And that while you're on the phone, human resources changes your password. And human resources doesn't know that they're giving the password to somebody that's bad. And that's what happened at the MGM.
got it. Yeah.
So it's no longer. Go ahead.
No. Go on, Gabriel. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be emails and we could protect ourselves from that. But now AI has come around and AI can imitate a person's voice. You would not know it's not that person. They have gone to social media and engineered them an identity. And and they can go to your employer and they can change all kinds of things in your employer.
Right. And I feel like a lot of us did hear about the MGM situation, and I had no idea exactly what
Yes.
occurred. So
Yeah.
now we're talking about
And that.
AI. Or what were we gonna say,
Yep.
Gabriel?
Yep. And then that's the gist. And see, I didn't know anything because they never tell you exactly what happened.
Right.
I had to research and research to find out what happened at the MGM, and that's what happened. Same thing happened at Caesar's Palace. Caesar's Palace paid the ransom, got all their data back. MGM said, no, we're not paying you a dime. They lost everything.
Got it.
So it really depends. Yeah, it really depends whether you're going to pay that money, and it's in crypto is what it is. Encrypt your data, meaning that let's say you have a Word document called welcome letter, and when you double click on that document, the document shows nothing but gibberish. It doesn't show any letters. It's just all garbled and it doesn't show anything. That file has been encrypted. And what you have to do is you have to pay that person money to get the unlock code so it encrypts all your files.
Mm, got it.
And I've gone through that. I've gone through that twice in my career. Where the first time was when the crypto viruses first came out, when the encryption viruses first came out, they were 128-bit version. That means there's 128 rows of highway. And the U.S. government had a fix for it. You could actually log on to a government website and you could download a fix for that encrypto virus. But then the encrypto virus went to 256 bytes. And that would take a supercomputer 10,000 years to break that encryption.
Got it. Oh, that is absolutely crazy. But I
Yeah.
guess, with AI, with people hacking, like, how can a business protect themselves so this doesn't occur?
The first thing I've been bringing up to like human resources department is to issue every employee a special code that they are not allowed to share with anybody. It can be anything. It could be a numerical code. It could be an alpha code, whatever it is. And that numerical code or alpha code has to be in the subject of an email that you send to human resources. So human resources, first thing they see is they see the subject line, they see the code, they go look up the code and make sure it's your code. That would eliminate somebody sending an email to human resources. As far as the phone calls, it's to the point now where you can no longer rely on phone calls. If somebody is calling human resources to change information about financial status or anything like that, human resources really has no choice but to hang up and call that person back.
Got
That's
it.
the only way you're going to know for sure, because you don't know who you're talking to. And if you have, like the MGM, if you have 20,000 employees, you don't know anybody's voice. You don't know who you're talking to. You're dealing maybe with 3, 4, 500 employees a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fast, and mistakes are made. So there's got to be some kind of code between an employee and human resources that lets human resources know that I am the person that's calling you. It's no different than your email. Emails all have two-step authentication now. When you log into your email for the first time, it sends a code on your phone, and you have to put that code in order to set up your email. Two-step authentication. And that's what human resources are going to have to go to if they're going to have to go to some kind of two-step authentication plan where they cannot rely on the first phone call, their first email to say, yes, this is genuine.
Got it. And
The second thing is very, very good antivirus. Microsoft Windows has fairly good antivirus, but this is the problem with that. There's 10,000 new viruses that come out every single month. Okay.
mm-hmm.
So if you have Microsoft Windows where you just paid for it once and you don't really pay for support, they're not going to be able to keep up with the amount of viruses that come out every month. A virus will come out and Microsoft will eventually fix it. But that doesn't mean that the damage isn't going to be done until it's fixed. You need a good third-party antivirus, something that specializes in corporate services, that says, yes, we protect you from the encrypto virus, we protect you from all kinds of viruses, and nobody's ever going to be able to get into your computer and change the files. And there's some really, really good ones out there that are specifically for business class computers. We're not talking about the basic home stuff. We're talking about high end business class computers that have to deal with a lot of data and have to talk to a lot of different systems. You have to get a third party piece of software. You cannot rely on a Microsoft antivirus in order to run your business. It's like it's a free antivirus. This is something that protects your whole world, and you're going to rely on something that's free. And that to me is a big red flag. I mean, I don't,
Got
you know, free is free. You get what you get when
it.
it's free.
Right. Right. And is this
Yeah.
something that you can help your customers with as well?
Oh yes. I actually, if they decide they don't want to do that, I will actually make them sign a piece of paper saying I refuse to put antivirus on the machine because I've seen it happen. It destroys lives. I read an article. It's been several years since I read this article, but it said it interviewed companies that had lost all their data. I mean, they cannot get any of their data back ever. 40% of those companies never open their doors again.
Mm.
You know, because I mean, you're going to try and find a phone number for a vendor. You're not going to be able to find that. It's on your computer. It's encrypted. You're going to try to find out. Attorneys is a really good example. When an attorney gets hacked like that, they don't even know what day they're supposed to be in court. You
Got
know,
it.
so it's so devastating that next thing you know, you're facing a lawsuit because you didn't show up in court because you can't get access to your calendar. Doctors is another prime example. There's an online software that a lot of doctors here in Vegas use. It got hacked. The doctors were not able to access. It's called EMR, medical software. It's for their medical. Keeps track of all the medicines they prescribe, keeps track of the calendars, keeps track of everything. That online company suffered a hack, and that system was down for 3 weeks. There were doctors that couldn't even prescribe emergency medication for people that had heart conditions that they had been prescribing for years because they couldn't get into the computer to make the prescription.
Mm.
So it's
Got
very, very serious. The United States is getting hacked every single day. There's countries out there that do nothing but create these big conglomerates that do nothing but try to hack computers. And, the two biggest actors obviously are Russia and China, but it comes from everywhere. I mean, I've seen viruses come from South Africa, South America, India, anywhere, any country in the world has hackers, and they all
Yeah.
try to hack. uh, and it's a matter of how many of these emails. I'm sure you've seen the emails before that says, you have just purchased an Xbox from this company, and this company has charged your PayPal account $499.
Mm-hmm.
Just happened to me the other day. The guy had just set up a PayPal account. He had just 10 minutes before he got this email, he set up a PayPal account. And he thought for sure somebody hacked his PayPal account, and he clicked on the link. And the link took him to a place, and he immediately put the virus on his machine. And if he would have went any further, it would have taken all his identity. So they say, click here or call this number if you didn't do this. And when you call this number, they start asking you questions like, okay, what's your bank account number? What's the amount? And now they have you.
Mm.
Because you've now given them your bank account information. You've given them your address. You've given them everything they need to go in there and modify your bank account. So you can no longer rely on emails, and now you can no longer rely on phones. We used to be able to rely on phone calls, but we cannot rely on phone calls anymore. It's just
Got it.
crazy. Yeah.
Gabriel, you have any, I guess, from your personal, you've been doing this for quite a while. Do you have any personal stories of, maybe a customer was looking to work with you and they got hacked, or maybe one of your customers? Like, do you have any crazy stories that
Oh
you would
yeah.
like to share?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The hacking is the biggest one, the encrypto virus. And here's another thing: backups. You have to do backups on your computer system. Okay. Now there's
Okay.
two ways to do a backup. You can do a backup internally where you go to the store, you buy an external hard drive, and you plug it into your computer, and you do backups. And then there's a backups that you do where you can go ahead and get an online backup account where it backs up all your data off-site and online onto a secure server. Okay. The biggest misconception people have is they keep using these internal backups where they have the backup in-house. But when the encrypto virus comes, it goes right through your computer and it encrypts all your backups. So you don't get to do a restore because all your backups are encrypted.
Hmm.
The only way you can protect yourself on a backup is to have an off-site backup where you go online and you sign up for an online backup of account and it logs into your computer systems and it does a backup every single night, and every single day that backup gets stored on a different server. So even if the server that you're putting your backup on today gets hacked, it doesn't matter because yesterday those backups were on a different server. Tomorrow those backups will be on a different server. So there's no way that they could get to the backups in order to encrypt the backups. These backup companies make a lot of money, creating people's backups. So they do everything they need to do to make sure that you're happy and that you're not going to lose your money. So online backups is so crucial now. And that's the biggest misconception people have, is that they think they can go down and they can get like an external hard drive and put it on their machine and turn on Microsoft Windows backup. And that's great. It works great. Microsoft Windows backup is very easy to use. It's very easy to restore, but it's not very good protection. Because
Got
if
it.
you get a virus on your network, that virus will eat right through that computer and go right to your backup and it will destroy your backup.
Got it.
And that's the biggest thing. And we had to learn that the hard way. And that's one of the ones, that was one of the, that was the second encrypto virus I ever came across. And I said, okay, no problem. You got backups. I'm very good about doing your backups. And we hooked that external hard drive in there and every single backup was encrypted.
Hmm.
And at that point, the only thing you can do is there's nothing you can do. Nobody can break this virus. Okay. There's companies out there that say they can break the encrypto virus, but it's not true. They cannot break the encrypto virus. Not even, like I said, take a supercomputer 10,000 years to break that code. Okay. So what happens is you have these companies now that are popping up nationwide, and what they do is they have relationships with the hackers, and they go to the hackers on your behalf, and they get a reduced rate. Number one, you get they negotiate with the hackers to try to get. So it's crazy. It just
Right.
never ever ends. And I mean and so that's what they do. And you almost have to use this kind of service because when you use a service like this, it's the best guarantee you're going to get your data back. So if you try to go and do this on your own, you might give the hacker $10,000 and he might not give you the right code, or he might not say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain. All of
Right.
a sudden you've given somebody $10,000 and you still don't have your data. And now this guy wants more money.
Got it.
So
I
that's
mean,
something that you cannot get into. Yeah, because you'll be throwing good money after bad. Unfortunately, it's one of those things of life. You have to go to a service that deals with encrypto viruses, and that way they can negotiate with you on your behalf with the hackers that they all have relationships with, and that way it's the best guarantee you're going to have to pay the money. That's the best guarantee you're going to get your money back, or you're going to get your data back.
got it. And I guess, Gabriel, when, let's say someone does get hacked, like what's the first
Yep.
step that they should do?
Turn off your computers. Do not touch them. It only makes it worse. Okay. I've seen people that got the encrypto virus and they think they're smarter than the whole world. And they think they can take that computer home and they can break the encrypto virus. And if you start playing with the files, then no matter what the hacker gives you, you'll never get your files back ever. So once that thing has been hacked, you have to leave it alone until you make a decision as to how you're going to go. Can I afford to lose all my data and start over, or do I have to pay this guy so I can get my data back and stay in business? I mean, when this happens to a home computer, it's devastating, sure, but they don't. It's not the end of the world. They're going to lose
Right.
all their pictures and all their music and everything, but they're not going to lose their business. So hacking a home computer is different than hacking a business computer because you have to. In a home computer, you can just say, you know what, I was stupid. It was my mistake. I lost everything, but it's not the end of the world. I'll just take more pictures.
Right.
In the world
Understood.
of business, you don't get to do that in the world of business.
Right. So you're saying, you said that the worst thing that you could do after you've been hacked is to turn off your computer. Did I hear you right?
If it is to turn, no, the best thing you can do is to turn off your computer and not
Okay.
touch it
Got it. The best.
until,
Okay.
yes, yes,
Got
yes.
it.
So until you get a professional in there that knows what it is and how to proceed. Because you will know within 2 seconds that your computer is hacked because the Microsoft Windows won't come up. So you have to take the hard drive out of that computer and you have to hook up the hard drive in another computer so you can see the files on that computer. And you will know every single file has the same date, the date that it was hacked. So
Got
all
it.
the creation dates on all the files, the creation date on all the files, all get to be the same date. And when you try to open up a Word document, like I said, it's just gibberish. Everything you try to open up is just gibberish. At that point, you have to really make a decision. You have to decide whether or not how important this data is to you. And the average is the last one I was on was a pretty good sized attorney firm, and it cost them $17,000.
Wow.
And they got
So
they did get they did get their data back.
got it. So it cost them, but they did get what they needed. And I'm sure that
Yeah,
$17,000 was something that they had to do. So the
they had no
best thing for
choice. Yeah, you're
right.
talking. Yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah. You're talking about 15 years worth of data. How are you going to
right.
replace 15 years worth of data? You're not going to.
Got it. So when someone gets hacked, the best thing to do is turn off their computer and call you, Gabriel.
That's it. Yeah,
Right.
and then really, yeah, and then you and I are gonna sit down, and we're gonna have a serious talk about what's on that computer, what the devastation is to lose that data on that computer. How's it going to affect your life? Okay, and if you say nope, I cannot afford to lose that data, then at that point we would go to a third party company, the company that deals with these hackers, and that's the best way you can guarantee. You can try to deal with it on your own, but it's very little guarantee that you're going to succeed. If you have a company that deals with these hackers on a regular basis, it's advantageous for that hacker to behave with that company because
Mm,
it's going to be repeat business. Okay. That company's probably going to call you again to say, hey, you know what? I got another hack. Let's go ahead and negotiate it out.
got it.
So that's
Understood.
a guaranteed way to get your data back because these companies want to do business with these other companies. So they're more likely to give you exactly what you pay for, which is your data back. And so, it just really depends on how adventurous you are. I've seen people, I mean, the one that I saw that was really bad was this manager of a law firm barely knew how to turn on a computer, decided to take that hard drive home and try to play with it. They never
Mm,
got their data back. Never.
got it.
It just doesn't happen.
Understood.
And this crypto virus will only happen once to you. I guarantee it will only happen once. Because after that, you will do online backups and you will have the best antivirus in the world on all your computers.
Got
But
it.
sometimes people think sometimes they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and it's not going to happen to them. And it
Mm,
happens. It happens every day out in the world. It happens
right.
to banks. It happens to hospitals. It happens to attorneys. It happens to the U.S. government. You know,
Mm,
and to me, I think that to me is kind of like a scam. And then this is why I say that is I have never in my career heard of the IRS getting broken into. Never. It doesn't happen. Why can't everybody have that kind of protection? So it's almost like it's supporting a business out there. Businesses that get supported, the people that negotiate for you, computer guys like me. Everybody gets supported in this thing, and so there's no solution on it. It would be like me coming out with a cure for diabetes. You know how many companies would go out of business if I came out with a cure for diabetes?
a lot.
I mean, every other commercial on TV is a commercial about monitoring your blood sugar. I mean, there would be so many businesses that would go out of business if you came out with a cure. Same thing with computers. If we stopped it, and that's the biggest problem. The banks get hacked in all the time. But what people don't understand is every penny they lose, the government reimburses them for it at the end of the year.
Mm,
You know, so if you went to the banks and you said, if you were the federal government, you went to the banks and you said, we are no longer going to keep reimbursing you for losses due to viruses. You would never, ever see a virus at a bank ever again.
Got it.
Never. They're banks. They're in business to keep their money, not to lose their money. And if the federal government ever went to them and said, hey, you know what? We're not going to reimburse you anymore, that would be the end of viruses at the banks. And the example I use is the IRS. I've never ever heard of the IRS getting broken into, ever. So, and even casinos, that MGM thing, was unique because it was a new way of doing it. But as far as like hard going into their computer system, not going to happen. They have 95 firewalls that you would have to get through to get to their data. So, and I knew one guy that ran a gambling site in Mexico, and they had all their servers for gambling sites. And he sat there and he pulled it up. He had 50 firewalls, and he could sit there and he showed me a screen. Look, here's this guy. He got through one. He got through two. Did not get to the third one. And he was showing me every single hacker that tried to hack into that system, what firewall it hit, how many firewalls it got through. And they never got through more than 10 firewalls. That was the most. And this company had 50 firewalls.
Got it. So less than what you were saying with the other possibly bigger casinos.
Yes. The casinos guarantee you a direct hack will never happen to a casino. It has to be trickery. It has to be trickery like we just saw, where at the MGM, where somebody poses as an employee. And I guarantee you, MGM has already put stuff in place that will never happen again.
I'm sure. Got it.
So, yeah. So, what you got, girl?
I mean, that's pretty much our interview, Gabriel. Did you have anything else that you would like to add?
I just beg people out there to just get some decent antivirus. I mean, God, I can get you a really good, nice antivirus for $79 a year. And you can go home every single night. You can lay your head on the pillow and you can get a good night's sleep knowing that your computer's not going to get hacked.
Got it.
So it's so imperative, and it's very simple protections. The online backup I'm talking about costs $79 a year. A year. Okay. That's less. That's what, like $6 a month, something like that.
No, that's
make
very
sure that your computer doesn't get hacked.
That's very affordable.
Yeah, very affordable, because getting hacked is not affordable. It's very expensive.
Very true. So it's $79 per computer?
No. What's good about the backups nowadays is that they just sell you a bunch of space. So you don't have to buy an account for each computer. What you do is you say, okay, I want to buy 1 terabyte from you for storage, for backup. And so you have 1 terabyte. You can put as many computers on there as you want, as long as you don't run out of hard drive space.
Got it.
And that's different than the way backups used to be. Backups used to be, like you were saying, you would have to pay for an account for every computer you wanted to back up. But backups aren't like that anymore. They sell you a bunch of room, and you're allowed to use that room any way you want to do backups. You can put as many machines on there as you want, as long as you don't run out of room.
Understood. If someone's looking to possibly connect with you, Gabriel, maybe they're interested in your services that you have to offer, how would someone go forth to doing so?
The best way to email me is the one thing I always try to explain to people is I'm a very private consultant. My name's not in the phone book. I don't have a website. Okay. I usually interview a client rather than the client interviewing me, because I don't want to be put in a situation where I'm wasting my time or the client's time. So the best way to get hold of me would be through my email address, which is Gabriel, Gabriel, at NCNLV. That's Nancy, Charlie, Nancy, Larry, Victor.com, or they can call me directly.
Got it. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Gabriel. And I'll be sure to add that to the description of our podcast. And I'm excited to have this uploaded. And thank you for, being our first podcast.
Oh, you're so welcome. If you ever need another guest, let me know.
I will. You have a great day.